what do you have to say about life?
Well, I guess expect the unexpected.
How do you take time to, do the self-observations, or what do you do? Like, say, for example, there's 24 hours in a day.
Just every day, you do your best. Like, we all sometimes fail.
Welcome, everybody, to A Little Perspective. My name is Pranav, and today we have a very special guest with us, John Grant. How are you doing today, John?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
So far, so good, man. Yeah, it's
good.
Really appreciative and really grateful that you're here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, John, why don't we just get the podcast started and get the ball rolling by you giving a brief introduction about yourself?
Sure. So my name is John Grant. I'm the president and CEO of Campbell & Halliburton Group. We have an insurance company in the city. We have a construction company and also a property management company. We've been around since 1957 and just have been really blessed to be a part of this community and continue to grow. It's a great place to be, great place to raise a family and do business.
That's awesome. And, like when we talked on our pre-podcast meeting as well, being a president, you've managing so many different things. How did this all come to be?
Well, I didn't envision myself doing it, honestly. I kind of fell into it. So I was a computer programmer initially, so not at all into, leadership or those types of things. Managing people was not my area of expertise, but my family, so my wife's family came from a small town called Rocanville, and they bought into a company called Campbell & Halliburton, or actually her grandpa started working there and then slowly bought in over time. The company went bankrupt, and then the managers were just given basically the opportunity to take the remainder of the company. So he partnered with a number of other folks, and they took over the company, and he grew it for his working career. And then my father-in-law took over and grew it for his working career. And then my brother-in-law got involved, and the plan was that he was going to grow the insurance company and continue to operate the companies. But he wasn't really interested in the property side of the company. So I was a computer programmer at the time. This was in the late 90s, and decided that, I would start to help them with rewriting some of their software because they had an old DB3 database and it was end of life. So I wrote some software to replace the existing software in the company and just got involved actually that way. And as time went on, I think my father-in-law had the kind of designs on me for looking after the property side of the company, because I was a computer programmer, but I did like to interact with people. I enjoyed that. Sort of human aspect of things, and was relatively comfortable with that. So he said, why don't you come and start working part-time? And so I did that. Some of the roles that I played was largely kind of administrative at the start. And then that was in the early 2000s. So I worked as a computer programmer and did both jobs for 3 years. And, actually, no, longer than that. I did that until 2007. Sorry. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I did the computer programming job. I'd get up early, go to work, and then I would leave, at 3:30 and go to my other job and do that till about 6 and then go home. But as these things happen, my wife and I started having children, and life started getting busier and busier. And so we had twins, and so at that point we had already had one, so we had 3 kids under 3, and this was the year of 2006. And so what happened was we had our first child, and she wasn't even 2 yet, and then we had twins, and my brother-in-law passed away very suddenly and unexpectedly.
Sorry about that.
In October of 2006, and he was a very critical part of the insurance company, and had been operating that as the vice president up until that point. So that was a very unforeseen, unplanned event. My father-in-law got cancer, and he was going for treatments, actually. So this was all in the space of about a 2-week period, where we went from, having 1 to 3 kids. Also, my wife had been incredibly sick with a condition called hyperemesis gravidarum, and she was really bedridden and sick. So it had been a challenging period of time. I held on until April of this was in October, November of 2006. I held on until 2007. and April of 2007. But I just decided I had to change. I had to make a jump, and obviously, my father-in-law, dealing with the death of his son and his cancer and so on, he wasn't able to kind of play a huge role in the company. So I had to make a decision, and it was kind of a sink or swim type of a decision. So I just decided, okay, I'll quit my job. At that time, I worked at SaskTel as a programmer analyst, and I went over to the insurance company and the property company. So from there, we just continued to grow, and we got involved in some projects where there was a big construction component. So we bought a heritage building with another group on Lawrence Street, and there was a lot of construction required. And we got some quotes, and they were all very high. So I said, well, I know some guys, and we had been doing some light renovations ourselves. So I said, let me give this a shot. So it actually went extremely well, and I found that I really love construction. I like the problem solving. I like figuring things out. So we started doing more and more construction as time went on. We got involved in some other projects, and just continued to grow that construction side of the business. And it tied in extremely well with purchasing of property and redevelopment of property. So we found that there was a bit of a niche there, and something that we could do pretty well. We could not only, buy the properties or put together the investment groups to buy the properties, but we could also, of course, insure them. And then we could also, do the construction work, or, at least manage the construction work and orchestrate all of those parts. So we grew and grew and grew the company as a result of that, and continued to buy buildings and kind of rinse and repeat. The insurance company has done well too. We've continued to grow by organic growth in that company. We haven't acquired any other brokerages, but we've been able to continue to grow and get more and more brokers, as time, and expand our office just in the one location. We were able to expand that as well. So yeah, so that's the business piece. That's kind of how I got involved in what I do as a CEO. Wasn't really by design at the start, to be quite honest. When I was young, I actually thought I wanted to be a rancher. That was my goal. I wanted to have a farm and be a rancher. A friend and myself, we had a fund. We had a can that we would put money in, and we were trying to save up to be farmers. It's probably fortunate. That's a pretty hard gig, being a farmer. So I'm probably just as well that we didn't achieve that goal, but especially just starting out from nothing and trying to build up a farm from nothing is pretty challenging. And then the other, my other line of work was fixing cars and doing those sorts of things. So my dad said, don't become a mechanic. Actually, I always encourage young people now, look at a trade, because trades are actually phenomenal careers if you're geared that way. If you like problem solving, being a mechanic now is not at all like it used to be, where it was, changing, tires and brakes and those sorts of things. Like, there is that component to it, but there's also a hugely diagnostic, very technical component to it that requires a lot of skills in terms of problem solving, digesting information, researching, and it's very computerized now and very, very different type of a trade. So that trade, as well as all other trades, like, because we are in the construction field, there is a big shortage of folks going into the trades. So I always encourage, if you're geared that way and you like that sort of thing, right, it actually is a very good opportunity to make an extremely good living. And I think it's just going to continue to be like more and more demand for that. And then, of course, it's going to be more lucrative for the folks that are in it and are good at it. But anyways, that's a digression. But how I became a CEO or a president of a company was a little bit by accident. It wasn't really a plan. It just was how things evolved. And that's how you might find life goes sometimes. It's like, you have an idea and you think this is how things are going to unfold, but sometimes changes happen that are unforeseen, and then you end up going in a totally different direction. So
no, 100%. And thank you for sharing your story. And again, sorry about your brother-in-law and your father-in-law. Yeah, I feel like Yeah, life just hits you with like those brick walls sometimes, and you just have to like, maneuver your way around. And speaking of that, how did that, like affect you? And what do you have to say about life in general? Because like you mentioned, like, like initially the ambitious goal was to become a rancher, then, computer programmer. You basically are like a jack of all trades. You did like mechanic work too. So the current moment you're at in right now, like that one shift changed everything. What do you have to say about life?
Well, I guess expect the unexpected because you never know. You never know how things are going to unfold. It's life is dynamic, and I think if you're the type of person that has a growth mindset, is always looking for opportunities to grow, to think about things in a different way, be flexible. It's a valuable skill. I know it's difficult. It can be a little anxiety provoking because, it creates we all like certainty. But I think if you get comfortable with the fact that nothing is certain and everything is uncertain, and get comfortable with that as kind of the reality of our world and our lives. But within that, the only thing that really is certain that we can attach to is, our internal locus of control. Like, we do have the choice, and that is certain. We have the ability to kind of decide how we're going to view things and how we're going to behave and how we're going to handle things. So if you can like really, rather than trying to gain your sense of security and your sense of stability from things external to you, really like try to develop yourself, which is I know what you guys are trying to do with your podcast and your pursuits, is to develop yourself and try to like have internal stability, because that is certain, and you can rely on that, especially once you get good at practicing that habit, I guess, and that, and like, they do a lot of times, they refer to it in the different, sort of traditional wisdoms as your practice, and it is a practice, and you do get good at it over time. And there's a continuity between all of these different thought groups and these different philosophies like Stoicism and, like the Tao and Hinduism and, Christianity and Judaism and Islam. Like there is a theme, if you strip out a lot of the politics and a lot of the noise that basically are just people trying to manipulate other people by using religion. If you strip all that stuff away and you look at the core principles and the pillars of all these religions, there's a commonality among them all. And, it's over thousands and thousands of years, people have found the same thing. There's a great strength that's just within you. And that if you look inside and don't try to attach to things that are outside you, that's where happiness and peace is.
And you think you found it?
No, I think it's a journey, and I don't think I'm there definitely, but it is something that, over time, it's slippery. Sometimes you'll take one step forward and two steps back. So I think the important thing is be patient with yourself. It doesn't come, it's not like a sitcom. It's not over. It's not over in 20 or 30 minutes. It's and there's layers to it as well. Like that's the other thing I've observed just in the little time that I've been on this planet. Although I know I'm old compared to you guys. I haven't been around that long, but
You look pretty young.
oh, thank you. There's layers to it. So you think you might have achieved, some level of peace and tranquility. Something happens and you get thrown off very easily or triggered by something, and you're like, oh, I actually don't have that much depth. So over time, though, I think if you do practice and you pursue, and also be honest with yourself, self-observation, self-awareness is really important. And, be aware of yourself and observe, like that idea of being the observer of yourself. So you're a little bit separating, maybe you're it, or you're how you're behaving from your actual self, and just observe yourself and observe, what effect it has on your energy and how you feel. Because you'll find if you're really in a nice, if you're doing a good practice, and if you're really focusing on the right things, you will find that your energy and how you feel is a lot more in flow and just better. When you start to get really judgmental of yourself or others, or you get really greedy, or you get or you're dishonest, a lot of the common traditional principles still hold true today. The things that we've all heard from our parents, it's 100% true. Those things are fundamental things, like honesty and being kind, treating other people as you would want to be treated, and treating people with respect. A lot of those traditional precepts hold true today. Not being judgmental of other people. You haven't walked any time in their shoes. You don't know their situation. So trying to, as much as possible, strip out some of those natural human, behaviors that I realize a lot of them have come because of survival reasons historically, but don't serve us well in our pursuit of peace and happiness. So if you can just be aware of it, and start to, move yourself forward in that pursuit of looking inward and really analyzing yourself, it's time well served. Actually, it's probably your best spent time, because in the long run, it's going to pay dividends.
Right. And having so much life experience in front of me, in front of all of us, like young generations. So the role that you're in, it's a very demanding role. You're managing so many things. You're constantly on the move. How do you take time to, do the self-observations, or what do you do? Like, say, for example, there's 24 hours in a day. How does your self-observation time look like?
I think, because life is very busy, you almost have to get in the habit of doing it all the time. So, with the exception of probably when you're in a really engaging meeting where you're talking to somebody, you're not able to as much as, but there's lots of time throughout the day, when you're driving, or when you're at your computer, or, you find your mind, just observing your mind and where it's going and what you're thinking, walking down the street or doing any of those things. Get in the habit of just being aware of your thoughts and of your state and how you're feeling. And then starting to the thing that really excites me, there's a lot of things that are very concerning right now with what's happening in the world. But the one thing that really excites me, there's actually lots of things that excite me, but one of the many things is all the great information. Like this is a good, like your podcast, what you guys are trying to do. And then there's so many positive. There's a lot of things that aren't very positive out there that are furthering people's kind of amount of baggage they have to then work on discarding because they've gotten themselves into some really bad mental habits. But there's so many videos, positive ones about health, mindfulness, and also just generally really good practice. Lots of great Stoic videos, lots of great Stoic podcasts out there. So the content is out there, and I do think it's getting into people's feeds and people are watching it. And I think it's helping, to not sound too airy-fairy, but it's helping the collective consciousness to elevate. Now, obviously, as of the last 2-3 months, the collective consciousness of the world maybe has gone down with what's happening in the United States. But I do think overall, but having said that, you do sometimes need an irritant and a disruptor to bring things to a new level. So while it's very concerning, there's a lot of uncertainty, it will help, I think, in some ways, if people use it in the right way, that energy of disruption and things that are happening. There's a lot of good that can come from it. We can become stronger. Maybe we can transition to, a more pervasive, kind of dissemination of this information, because more people will be looking, more people are scared and are going to be maybe looking for some other alternate ways of thinking about things, as opposed to the really self-centered and the really like basic, low kind of minded way of thinking about things that seems to be driving a lot of the uncertainty and the bad things that are happening in the world right at the moment. So perhaps we could see a bit of a counter culture to that, and a counter move, which could be in the end be very positive. So right. Sometimes there's a silver lining in all things, even in the cloud storm of Donald Trump. Maybe right. There'll be a silver lining, I hope.
And I feel like you just need to have that perspective and mindset that believing that, sometimes negative situations or a lot of negativity just gives you more clarity in the end of what you don't want to become. Nothing
clears the mind like having this kind of extreme disruption. Right. It really will help folks to, I think clearly and make decisions that are going to, I hope,
right,
be in a positive direction. There's a very good chance that, and I think coupled with the more of this sort of positive information that people can get out there, the better. It's overall, it's going to move the needle, I think, on us helping to get to a state where, we're thinking more along the lines of the collective and what's in the best interest of all. Obviously, there's always going to be self-interest, but we also have to consider it is in our own self-interest to help our neighbor. Actually, it is in our own self-interest to help our community and to try to make it so that everybody can succeed and have a good chance at having a nice life. So that is in all of our best interests, actually. Yeah. So yeah, I'm an eternal optimist, to be quite honest. I'm
I like that.
Stupidly optimistic, and probably to kind of in a naive way, but I always like to think positive. I always like to be optimistic. I always like to push forward with things and try to find solutions, sometimes to a fault. Like sometimes I've been in some businesses where I just because I don't like giving up. That's a bit of it's a plus and it's a minus sometimes, because I always refuse to give up on things. And so then I end up pushing on something, especially in the business world. And I'm like, no, we're going to get this done. And sometimes it is a good characteristic for sure. And then sometimes it does work against you and other things if you have a bit of a wrong-headed idea on something. So
fair enough. And how you mentioned first of all, when you talked about stoicism, right? You give off those vibes. Like you're pretty calm and you have that really positive approach towards life and a very real approach towards life. And how you mentioned about yourself that you're like an internal optimist. I found out recently, and not recently, I read about this on a person's Instagram page, that life only makes sense in reverse. Like you can only connect the dots when you look back. That time when you mentioned about having twins and you all had 3 kids under 3 and all those things happening at once, were you scared?
I probably was. Probably was thinking very clearly, because I was under a lot of pressure and had to make a lot of decisions. So I guess I've always found I do get scared for sure sometimes and get nervous and so on, absolutely, and feel anxious. But more and more, I find that I focus on, as I've kind of gone through a lot of different experiences, I've started to focus more on just, that's the situation. That's what it is now. Okay, what are we going to do about it? And then what gives me comfort is looking for solutions and trying to move to a point where I can get into the solving the problem as quickly as possible. That's my go-to strategy is always, maybe it's a coping mechanism, but I'll be okay, let's analyze the facts. Let's not dwell on the stuff we can't change and the stuff that we have no control over. That's a sunk cost that's already happened. What can we do moving forward to make this better and try try to like just do the best we can with what the current situation is. So that's my go-to. That's what I've always found to be my approach, and it has served me well, actually. So yeah, I was probably very scared when initially, but over time I've just learned to really focus on looking for solutions.
Right. And one of the best things about having this mindset and having this just being like this from within is how you can share that with the rest of the world. So, being this president, being the CEO, how do you incorporate that in your professional setting? Like, with the people that you hire, or, people come to you looking for help. Sometimes they feel lost too. You're having conversations. How do you radiate this to other people?
Just every day you do your best. Like we all sometimes fail when we're dealing with an interaction and we think we could have done better. But when you're dealing with your colleagues and people that you're working with, I try to stay solutions oriented. Try to really stay away from our corporate culture and dealing with people. I try to stay away from being judgy, accusatory, all of those things that just automatically get people into that defensive mode. I try to, listen to the situation. Sometimes I'm not the best listener, but I try. Try to listen to get the facts and then, work with them. And I think leadership has evolved over time. Sometimes I used to go in and try to always solve the problems and try to be really actively involved in actually, kind of solving and implementing sometimes. But now I'm more trying to, as I've, gotten older, I've tried to more than see if I can get them to solve the problems and, help where I can, but more say, hey, here's maybe give some idea if it's needed, but try to maybe say less and let your team try to solve the problem. Because I think a lot of times as leaders, we try to get in there and solve too many problems ourselves. And the thing that I've found is your team is really smart and really capable. And if you get out of the way, sometimes they actually come up with better ideas than you would have ever come up with.
Right.
Because they think about something in a different way. We have a very diverse team, and I really appreciate that because we get some interesting perspectives. And that's what I always find fascinating about, work and just life is it's really interesting to see how people solve a problem or think about something and you would have never thought of it in that way or doing it that way. So that's a lot of fun as a leader. And I think, trying to just let people, as a leader, I think just to answer your question about, trying to let people live their own, have their own path. And obviously you have to create some metrics and all the normal business stuff, but as much as possible, trying to let your team evolve and solve problems and develop themselves as well, where I really like to see people develop. And so then it shifts from becoming kind of you're kind of when you're younger, you're being competitive and you're trying to do yourself. You're trying to do everything and, build up your ego and build up your wealth. But then as time goes on, sometimes it becomes more about building up your team and building up other people. And then you try to allow them to succeed, and then they take the credit and you give them the, some of the benefit for that. You're like, hey, you did a good job, so that's going to go in your bonus. And you really try to incentivize them to grow as people and develop and it becomes less about you.
Right. And if you had to, give leadership a sentence, like leadership in the words of John Grant, what would it be?
Leadership. For me, it's humble, hardworking, and smart. People are always the best leaders, at least in my view. I think I really like being humble, and I'm not always humble, and people do fail, but that's a goal, is to be humble and try to be really self-aware. And then I think you always have to work on your being smart is a work in progress,
Right.
but continue to learn. When I say smart, I don't mean it's like in a, there's lots of different types of intelligence, but trying to be aware of your strengths and your weaknesses, but try to continue to work on yourself and grow and learn, and never stop kind of that sense of wanting to know and to learn and being curious. And then hard work. Like, it's really tough. Like some people seem like, I did this and it was so easy. I haven't found too many things like that. Like, there is the odd one where you luck out.
Right.
You just luck out and it was easy and it came together. But that's the exception. Like, typically everything comes with a lot of hard work and discipline. There's no replacement for discipline in life. Like, you have to be disciplined and focused in order to kind of get through the things that you need to get through. That's just the realities of life. So I guess that's like what I like to lead by in terms of sort of the pillars that I like to try to display, and then also that I'm trying to instill in others.
Right. It seems like that should go on a wall, like in your office. Humble, hardworking, and smart. Like the pillars like leadership for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, like you mentioned, like leadership was never really your forte. Like you had to just wear that hat because of circumstances.
It's true.
So how has that served you? Like, shaped you as the man you are in front of us? How would you look back on the journey?
Well, I think, like leaders are, I guess the thing that's come clear to me is as leaders are in all different forms. And sometimes, and circumstances, a lot of times, it's like it's needed. So you rise to the challenge. It might not be your natural go-to. You might not be a really pushy person or somebody that like naturally wants to, boss people around or be the leader. But because of the situation you find yourself in, and maybe there's a leadership void too, so there's a necessity, then you rise to the challenge and you can do it. That's the thing. And you don't have to you can be your own, you can just be yourself and be your own style. And you don't have to be the stereotypical leader to be effective. Some of my most effective salespeople are quiet people, but they're very hardworking. They always follow up, but they're not pushy, but they're very informative. And so, that approach is very effective. And even though they might not be like what you might consider a stereotypical kind of high-powered type A personality, that's actually definitely not going to hold you back. You can be a more mild-mannered person and still be an effective leader.
Right. And when you mentioned about like how your father-in-law basically, had this vision that, there will be a need for you to step up. Like you might have to step up, right? So are there any stories that, you learned from him that you're currently incorporating in your own life or in the business that you're like, that was a great thing that I want to instill in my own personal journey?
Yeah, he was actually a real character. He'd always say a few little business things like, more is better than less, sooner is better than later when you're dealing with most things. So he would always be like, why don't wait, get in there. Like, let's say you had a deal, something that you wanted to get, like he was just like, you get in there, you get it closed. He was very like focused on getting deals done and so on. So that instilled in me, you do have to have a sense of urgency sometimes. Now you don't want to, constantly be like a stress ball, but you do have to work hard. And so that was definitely hard work, and focus was definitely something that he instilled in me. He was more of a type A personality than me.
Was he?
100%. Like, he was very more aggressive, more type A, but he also was kind. And he, I remember one time, we were going for a hamburger because he liked hamburgers. And so we were going for a hamburger at Burger King, and there was a guy outside that was asking for money. And so instead of just giving him money or just walking by, he said, come in for lunch with us. So we actually had lunch with him and, ate and had food. So he was that kind of guy. Like, he was very friendly, very like chatty, would talk to anybody about anything, but and very kind, and always willing to help, and trying to get involved. He was involved in a lot of different things, and we've continued with our company to try to be very community minded and always looking for ways to help the community and to help out good causes. So that's probably the main thing that sticks out in my mind for that, and it's interesting, how those, like, some probably at the time you didn't even think anything of it, but it stuck in my mind as something that was really telling of his character and his, what a good person he was.
No, sounds like a great man. Right. So, moving to the business side of things. So you're managing, multiple different things at once. What do you enjoy the most? Like, you're like, what, this part of the business I just love doing.
To be honest, like, people are the most complicated part of business, but they're also the best.
Yeah.
It's the relationships. I really enjoy the people that I work with. I have the privilege of working with some really fine individuals, and I go into work. I look forward to seeing them, honestly. So for work, it's just like I look forward to going to work. I like solving problems. Sometimes I know I said I'm trying to let others solve the problems now. But I do enjoy hearing about problems, or like, how do we get around something, or how can we push through this in the best way possible, or what are the economics of this? I do still really enjoy all of those things. So that's fun for me. And then just the wonderful people that I get to work with.
Right. And, I feel like, people just really like build up that culture where you work at. It's not like we were talking to a previous guest as well, and he was like, it's not the leader who creates the culture, it's the people around you, right?
And what you'll find is every time you either add or subtract a person, somebody retires or something from your organization, it changes the dynamic. So a culture is very, they say, we have a culture and it's fixed. No, culture is always changing. Right. It's always evolving. It changes as you change your players. The central, like, core principles, you hire for culture a lot of times too, but it's not like a textbook thing. It's going to be on a spectrum. So, you might have somebody that's really, really, kind of exemplifies everything that you would want, but that's rare. Usually you have kind of a spectrum, right, to have all your different players. And so and two, people have, obviously they have changes in their lives, and they have changes in their circumstances, and that affects their behavior. So it's a very dynamic, moving, fluid type of a thing, corporate culture. But yeah, it's fun. It's what makes the organization strong, and it is about the people that are in it. A lot of times, really, they're the ones that lead it, because as the leader, you do set the tone, but they carry the ball.
So, being in the business field and in the leadership field for such a long time, what's been the greatest lesson you've learned?
Be patient. I think patience is a very good quality. Do you think that's missing in today's world? Yes. I think patience is, I think a lot of people expect things to happen really quickly and to be easy. And I mean, I think every generation, to be quite honest, has said about the previous, the upcoming generation, you need to learn all these principles. You guys will figure it out, honestly. Like we all say, the next generation, you guys are all on your phones. I don't know what's going to happen. You know what? The previous generation said that about us too. And the previous generation, I was at I was at the SGI conference, and it was so funny. There was a quote about young people, and it was like, I can't remember exactly what the quote was, but the gist of it is, like, young people these days, I don't know how they're going to like survive in the real world with, they're like all the distractions that they have and all the, they can't pay attention to things. And the quote was from 1993. And so it was it was about boomers, I think, or no, 1973. Sorry, 1973. Even before. So it was 1973. So it was about boomers coming up, right? So every generation has said, the upcoming generation, they're worried that they're not going to be able to handle it or carry the ball. But
Right.
it's, you guys will figure it out. You guys are going to be just fine. And I think you have a lot of great information available, in the form of podcasts and also in the form of YouTube videos and so on. So it's good. I think things are going to work out. But I think learning patience is a really, really important.
Right. So you're like a philosophical dad, hey? Like you have your own kids. Like what kind of lessons do you teach them?
Well, that's a good question. With your kids, it's, you do your best. Like you try to instill, the precepts that you think are important, like patience and hard work and discipline. And then you sometimes wonder if any of it's working. But
I feel like results show in the end. Eh? It's the results that speak.
It's having kids is truly a social experiment. You never know how things are gonna shake out, but you do your best and you try to make it so that they'll have at least the tools that they need to be able to learn and to grow as human beings in the future. But yeah.
No, trust me. I feel like they have a really good role model that they're looking up to. Because just talking to you, like the knowledge and the way that you talk, it sounds so real and authentic. And I feel like that's like an important aspect in parenthood too. I'm not a dad, so I don't know. But I feel like you seem like a really great role model.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, of course. So, moving to like the business side. So, what are the future plans?
So I guess our future plan, like I enjoy work.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those people that will probably have some form of work, even when am supposed to be retired. Cause I don't find doing nothing to be very.
Are you like Warren Buffett? I think he said like, the day I stop working is like when I'll be dragged out of the office or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Possibly. And some people say that's a negative thing because you're not like, you haven't developed yourself, but I do truly enjoy work.
Yeah.
And I do truly enjoy like helping other people. So I don't know. It is what it is. I can't change it. It's like how I'm built, like how I'm just, I can't envision myself sort of going down south and sitting around a pool. It's just not in my DNA. I don't mind doing that some of the time for sure, like going down, but I have to stay engaged in things. So I see myself continuing in business. I enjoy what I do. I like to continue to grow. So I guess in terms of what's next, we've got some plans to grow both the insurance company as well as the property company, and continue to do construction projects and so on. So that's going to be a lot of business as usual. The thing that I'll start to think about is at some point in the next 10 years, a succession plan, because even though I do want to work forever, I realize I'm not going to be alive forever. So, I will die someday for sure. It's just, that's a certainty. But so thinking about, getting some other key players involved, whether that's family members or otherwise, and just figuring out kind of what those next steps are. That'll be something. I'm fortunate, knock on wood again, because I'm healthy, I feel good, but you don't want to take that for granted. Things can change. So starting to think about those types of things, that's probably a next step in the, not this year or maybe even next year, but something in the next 5 to 10 years.
How do you envision your legacy? Like, like you talk about like a succession or like a succession player. Well, how does that person look like? Really, like what's your legacy look like?
I guess I don't really, to be quite honest, other than just to have a business and those sorts of things, I don't know if I'll have, other than hope to have helped the community and hope to have been able to do some good things for some organizations and that are having a good impact in the community and just helping them with projects and financially, I don't think I'm all that important, to be quite honest, in the big scheme of things, like
You're
I think
too humble, I guess.
no, but I think that's totally true. I mean, we always, like most human beings, make the mistake of overestimating their own importance. And really, in the big scheme of things, I'm I'm just a piece of dust. So it's not the legacy part is like not that important. I just would obviously I want my kids to be okay. I want them to be stable and happy and having a good, living a good life. I'd like to have helped as much as I can, like do the best I can to help as much as I can. And, in growing the business and helping the community and doing things that are positive. And then I'll be content with that, to be honest. I don't feel the need to kind of put my name on anything particularly. Yeah.
So what are the kids up to right now? Because you mentioned you had twins in 2006.
Yeah. So the twins are graduating from grade 12 this year. Yeah.
Nice.
And then so one of them wants to go to culinary school, so that's good. And the other one's going to go to university, so that's good too. And then the older one just finished her first year of massage therapy and did really well. She got a really good mark and she enjoyed it, so she's going to complete that out. She wanted to do it, and you learn a lot about anatomy. Mm-hmm. I don't think it'll be kind of she'll do it for some period of time, but I think people who do massage, they find that their wrists and their elbows and their hands get sore, so they usually augment it with something else. But she enjoys helping people and trying to help them to overcome pain issues and those sorts of things. That's something she's interested in. So she graduated. She's like, I really don't know what I want to do, but I'm kind of interested in this. So I said, great, do it.
Right.
So then she's done really well, and I'm proud of her. She did a good job and got her first year completed, and she's going right back and growing immediately into her second year and going to complete it out. So yeah.
Solid. And one common theme that I've seen so far in our talks here is about helping people, the relationship side of things. And I feel like this is a perfect transition into me asking, what's your why in life? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier because you mentioned it to me, and I was thinking about what my why is, what drives me. And I think, most of our why comes from our childhood, in terms of why we do, really why we do what we do. I think it comes from, and I think for me, I had really, really good hardworking parents growing up who were very honest and very disciplined but also very good, kind people. So ultimately, who I am as I am today and why I do what I do is because of my parents, and because of what you can't underestimate that childhood experience, that 0 to 5.
Right.
Those are the formative years, and that's really what's formed me. And I guess the one thing in terms of why I am pursuing that self-reflection and mindfulness and trying to dig into that is I think that's the core of maybe it's not why we do what we do, but it's the core of happiness, and it's the core of having a better understanding of what life's about, which actually, I know there's a yogi that said his last lesson or whatever is that life is actually not about anything.
Is that Osho?
Yeah, Osho. Yeah. And that's an interesting observation, and I do in some ways agree with it. I think we tend to overthink a lot of things as humans. I think we're looking for things that aren't there a lot of times, and it does affect our clarity of thought, and it affects truth because we're always looking to attach meaning to things. And sometimes there isn't actually maybe any meaning to be attached. It's just about being. And I know that's a little hard to actually action, or to like apply to your life. So I do think there's different, but it is an interesting idea to think about. But I guess for me, like, the kind of the why I'd like to be at peace. I'd like to find happiness and peace, so that when I do die, I've found peace and I'm happy. I know that's kind of morbid, so I apologize for ending on that.
That's all good.
But I think the why we do what we do and why we how we are is because of our childhood and our parents and our upbringing. And if you really look at some of your behaviors and what you're doing, you can trace it back to that. But then ultimately, our why, I think, is to really know ourselves and to try to like look in and be the best people we can be.
Right.
And I think we have a responsibility to try to do our best for like the collective. And ultimately that's also doing the best for ourselves. They're one and the same.
Right. What's your most cherished memory about your parents?
I think, well, for me, I mean, I have lots of good memories of my childhood. I was raised in a happy family and, with good parents. So I remember, going camping, going to different camps in the summertime with them and doing fun things like that. We were a hardworking family, so we worked my dad was always working and my mom was always busy doing things, but we always did find time for like happy family get-togethers and family reunions and fun times. And I those events stand out in my mind as really, really fun times.
Right. And if you could tell them something about your life right now, like, the John that we have in front of us right now in this present moment, what would you tell your parents?
I guess I would just want to say thank you to my parents. My parents, I'm fortunate they're still alive, so I can say thank you to them. They did a great job of raising us, and they sacrificed for us. And even to this day, they do anything they can to help us. My dad is, pushing 80, and he's still helps. He helps me sometimes. He helps my sister. And my other sister. So he's always doing things to help us out. If you ever need anything, he's always there. I realize someday he won't be, but if you're ever in a tight spot, you need him to pick somebody up or do something, no problem. He's always happy to help. And my mom has always been that loving, supportive person. And she's, if you ever, want to chat with her about something, she's always open to it. So yeah, I would just say thank you. Thank you for being great parents, and thank you for looking after us and being so selfless.
Wow. And I feel like, those qualities just really transition into like the kids. And I mentioned this about like in a previous episode too, that I feel like children are just a byproduct of the environment that they're raised in, right? So you're just basically a reflection of your parents.
It's 100% true. And the thing that you have to recognize, like a lot of the things that kind of in my world anyways, that motivate me to support causes is when I see like organizations like North Central Family Center, like a lot of kids, they don't have that base. They don't have a structure. And when, they're born into a family that's maybe, very much in a socioeconomic and disadvantaged position, and they're struggling with addictions and all these things in the home, it's a very different world. And so giving kids an opportunity to go to an organization like the North Central Family Center or the Early Childhood Learning Center. Actually, I went to a fundraiser for that on Thursday. Phenomenal. Like these people do so much more. Like I know you're interviewing me, but really those people do so much more for the community. And so much
they'll be
more.
next in line, I guess.
I have so much respect for people that dedicate their lives. I got to see a lady, her name's Sandy Wankel. She's like the most wonderful person. She was the past executive director of North Central Family Center.
Okay.
At this event, she was just in town. So she just radiates like an absolute angel. And she's dedicated her whole life to this work. And the next executive director, her name is Kim Wenger, and she's also a phenomenal person, such a good job of helping the community. And, it's a very selfless job, and it's very it takes a lot of patience and a lot of hard work. So, but the work that they're doing is very valuable. If they can move the needle for, some percentage of people that come to their program and help them to, not repeat that cycle of addiction and so on, and socioeconomic problems and all those things, poverty, and help them to get education and into a better path that's going to be more positive for them. The dividends that pays in the long run, and the spin-off effects and the multiplier effects are incredible over decades. Right. So,
and I feel like it's just it's a very beautiful thing to understand that you have privilege and then using it for the right reasons.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Right.
I think we're very fortunate. A lot of people who were born and raised here, we've had lots of opportunities to get into real estate early and get into all these different things early, and it has paid really great dividends. When you're let's say trying to start from, it's easier to keep a ball rolling that's already rolling. Whereas if you're coming out of a situation where maybe your family is, you haven't had that family structure of support, trying to get the ball rolling from that is much harder. So I think, if we recognize we have it easy, we had a good start, and be thankful for the fact that you had a good start, and then help others to try to recognize that, you had an advantage, and therefore you have a responsibility to help other people.
Right. And I want to come back to this that you mentioned about happiness and peace. In your perspective, what does that entail? What does happiness and peace mean?
I think it's happiness and peace it can be a feeling, but it's probably more than a feeling, actually, because feelings come and go. But it's happiness and peace, I think, is just knowing yourself and being aware that you have both good and bad in you, trying to let go of those things, not judge yourself, not judge others, letting go a lot of those mental, not just attachments to things, but also mental attachments and habits that we have that actually kind of torture us in a way, because you get in this mind loop where you're just constantly in this, series of either negative thoughts or judgments, and trying to learn to let go of those things and be accepting of things that as they are, and and really truly seeing things for what they are, and really we're very temporary here, and the world is a very dynamic place. And but if we just know ourselves and know kind of our place in the world that we are, obviously we're not nothing. We're here. We have consciousness, so that's not nothing. But being aware of the fact that we're a very, very small part of the overall collective consciousness, and being aware of kind of how to use our body and our mind for creating a nice peaceful harmony within ourselves. I think it's a practice that, and I have not achieved it, but right. that's something that I'm striving for. And I guess somewhat to answer your question, I don't maybe know exactly what that looks like either. What does peace and happiness really look like? I'm striving for it, but I don't maybe know what that looks like either. And so it's interesting because we do have so many other things that cloud the truth, because we have a lot of distractions in life, it seems, from sort of the core thing. So yeah, it's a journey, and it takes time, and there's layers to it. That's the one thing I think I've learned is that
you can go deeper and deeper, and maybe once you think that you're maybe there, you're actually not. So
Does it get overwhelming? Because sometimes when you start exploring all these things, right, like on a philosophical level, on a spiritual level, on like all these mental levels, does it like, because when your mind open up, sometimes it gets really overwhelming, at least for me. Like when I start asking these questions, I just, I get scared sometimes. I'm like, okay, this is too deep.
it can be overwhelming. And I think you just, that can really like, possibly stifle things. But I think as you're ready, you'll get to the next level. And so probably, if you're feeling overwhelmed or having a sense of overwhelm, it's probably better just to take a step back and observe yourself.
Right.
And just, it's okay. It's not that, you're that millions of people have been here, billions of people, billions and trillions of people have possibly been here, depending on what your perspective is. But, there's lots of people have been on this path before, and you're not alone, and it's okay. And when you're ready, you'll kind of get to the next level of like understanding. And, I think it's just being patient and trying to let go of some of that sense of overwhelm and fear.
Letting go.
Yeah.
Right. So, sure, we might not know what happiness and peace entails. What do you think is keeping people, at least from it? Like in today's world, like you mentioned, there's so much happening. Sure, we might not know what the end result might be, but what do you think is keeping people away from just the path or the journey to get on it?
Well, I think some of it is like being exposed to some of these different ideas. Some people haven't been, and that's why I'm so excited about the ease with which we can access these types of ideas. Like the exchange of ideas and the ease with which we can exchange ideas is like so much easier and faster now than it's ever been. So I'm excited about that. I think that's opens up a realm of possibilities that's hard to predict how that could change the world. So I think that's one thing that I guess, and the reason why maybe people don't is some of it is maybe somewhat lack of interest, and that's okay. Like if somebody's just not interested in this type of like thought process or this type of content, that's okay. I mean, that's reality, right? Some people just aren't interested. And then some folks, maybe just haven't been exposed to it, which I think is going to change which is great. And then also we're being trained all the time by, I think, there's a little bit conspiracy theory or a little bit kind of, larger kind of anti big corporations. But I mean, unfortunately, our societies are very much built on manipulation of the population for the purposes of economic gain. And I'm not a communist. I'm a total capitalist. Like I believe in free markets.
Right. But
I also think we have a responsibility to look after people in our societies too. I think there's a balance. But unfortunately, and I think because a lot of corporations, I mean, they're trying to change people's behaviors and their mindsets for their own profit. And so, all of the social media platforms, I mean, they're designed to be a monetizing instrument. And so they're trying to figure out, how can I occupy as much of everybody's headspace and time in order to maximize views and clicks and whatever, to maximize their own revenues. So we're bombarded with things constantly. And I mean, and it's not new just to social media. Before that, I mean, even, the alcohol industry and the tobacco industry and all these, they try to incredibly detrimental stuff, really, when you look at it physiologically and what it does to the human body. but they try to manipulate through marketing and advertising people's mindsets to make them think that this is an image thing.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
We're constantly like Disney and, all of these different organizations, so we live in a world where we're basically constantly being mined for our time and our wealth and for the economic gain of the machine. And that creates, I know that might sound kind of like, like anti-capitalist, but that's the reality though. The fact is fact. And
Right.
I think it has a really negative effect on a lot of people because
and I think that's what becomes so important, like you mentioned about like self-observation and just observing what's going on around you.
Yeah.
So it just basically ties into the whole fact that seeing stuff for what it actually is.
Seeing things for what they are.
Yeah.
And that's the key, because there's so much manipulation and so much distraction and nonsense that goes on in misinformation now that, I think the ability to see things for what they are is going to be very important.
Right.
And yeah.
That's pretty cool. So John, we'll just move into like the rapid fire round.
Sure.
Of or not round, rapid fire questions of our podcast, and slowly move towards the end.
Sure.
So first question, what are you most grateful for in your life right now?
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the things that I mentioned previously, like my parents and my family. But I'm really grateful to be on this journey of like becoming more self-aware. I'm really grateful that I found this path and that I'm pursuing this, because I think it's the most rewarding thing is to really start to dig into knowing yourself as much as you can and really try to understand your behaviors and yourself. And I'm really grateful for just being on this path and being alive and being able to do the things I'm doing.
Right. Well, I feel like the word's correct, internal optimist. That's awesome. If you could give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
My 20-year-old self, I was pretty stupid. So
I guess we all are.
I was unusually dumb.
Those are just exceptions if there's a smart guy.
I guess on a business front, I would say, take risks and start early. I know there's lots of things I didn't do and I should have done when I was younger. That would have been really wise. So I think that from a business standpoint would be time, the time value of money is huge, and doing things that when you're young is really, really a good idea, like being disciplined and saving and investing and so on. On a personal level, I guess I just not getting caught up so much in material things and starting to focus more on things that are of value,
right?
Like true value. Younger, that would have been probably one piece of advice that I would have given myself. And just be a little more grateful and a little bit more kind. Gratitude is a phenomenal thing, actually, and I wish I was a little more gracious when I was younger.
Perfect. I feel like better late than never.
Yeah.
Right. The best piece of advice you could give to, the younger generation when it comes to entrepreneurship, the business side of things, professional side of things, what would you tell them?
I would say education is very important. It's important to get educated and to understand, basic concepts of business and economics. But don't overanalyze. Don't do paralysis by analysis. Don't be afraid to try your idea. Get a mentor. I think that's a good idea as well. Have somebody that's been there, done that before. I think you learn a lot from really listening to people. They might not always tell you what you want to hear, but they've been there before and they know some of the pitfalls of some of these things. So get a mentor and also take risks. Don't be afraid, and get educated. Education is very important, and really understanding how things work.
Awesome. And before we part ways, John, any final piece of advice you want to tell our viewers, our listeners, just parting words?
I guess I would say, like, get involved in helping people. That is very rewarding. And if something that you're passionate about, something that isn't, business oriented or having to do with like earning money, but something like philanthropic that you can do, doesn't matter the level. A lot of organizations really can use people for, helping them with social media or, doing posts, but pick something that you are passionate about, that you feel would really help society, and get involved in it. Giving back to the community and being involved is a really, really, it's a fulfilling thing for yourself, but it also really over time can really help to move the needle for your community and also just the world. If it becomes like something that is happening everywhere, more and more people are giving back. It's profound. It's profound in terms of its impact.
Right. No, those are some really wise words. And just want to say thank you so much, John, for today. It's been an amazing conversation. Me personally, I've learned a lot, and really glad that you shared your wisdom with me and just like all of our viewers and listeners. And just really excited to maybe possibly shoot another episode. Like a whole stoicism or like some sort of like a mental basically practice about something about that too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I really like that stuff. Thanks for the opportunity. I've never done a podcast before, so it was a new experience for me, and it's lots of fun. It was really nice to meet you guys. You're both very interesting young guys, and you're on the right path. You're very you're very inquisitive, and you're very much trying to understand some of the different philosophies. There's a lot of value in some of the philosophies from 1,000 years ago or longer. So yeah, good job. Thanks for doing this. I think it's a good community thing to do. It's good for Regina to have our own podcast, because I know we're not New York or LA or something, but it's still
one day.
It's great. No,
yeah.
So good job. I'm excited for you guys. I think your futures are bright, and I look forward to hearing about what you guys are doing in the future. And yeah, love to come on again sometime.
No, that's really appreciative of that, and thank you for being on A Little Perspective.
Yeah.
Take care.